Kiba, do you have a favorite video game genre?
Well, when it comes down to it, I always default to one particular type, and that's horror games.
Yes, me too. Horror games can be riveting, nail-biting, medium. When done correctly, it allows you to play through your own personalized horror film.
And why is horror so effective in gaming? I mean, companies like Capcom, Visceral Games, and Konami, they pioneered survival horror. I mean, Dead Space, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, so many.
Yeah. And there's some great games coming up in the horror genre. We've got Resident Evil 2, the full remaster, coming out in January.
Last of Us Part 2, the sequel to the critically acclaimed Naughty Dog adventure.
Oh yeah, we have Days Gone, which is a zombie survivor horror. That's also coming out in February.
And Metro Exodus, post-apocalyptic adventure, nuclear mutations, first-person shooter. That's also coming out in February. I see a theme here.
Seems it's just a little bit of a theme. I love post-apocalyptic games. I always get super obsessed with them.
Yes.
Okay, February is coming up. That's great. But let's talk about something that you can get right now.
Okay, the horror genre is so vast that you probably don't have time to play them all, so here are a few we recommend picking up. As you mentioned, these games are available right now, so you might even be able to pick them up pre-owned.
So where should we go first? What games should we talk about?
Well, I'm going to talk about Resident Evil 7.
Yes.
This was one of my favorite games of last year. It utilized first-person horror, which is new to the series, which at first I was skeptic, but I realized it was for the VR mode, which actually won Best VR Game at the Game Awards.
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
The cool thing about Resident Evil 7 is that it takes the best of Resident Evil 4 and kind of adds that like atmosphere, and then of course Resident Evil 2 back in the day, and really brought Resident Evil back to its form, which I love.
I plowed through that game in the first 48 hours that it came out, beat it on the hardest difficulty. I attempted VR. I did the demo of it in VR, and I screamed and jumped so loud. There's a section where you're just sitting in the chair, and she's crawling behind you, and with headphones, you feel her breathing in your ear.
I literally had to stop a couple times on VR mode. I thought I'd be fine, and then I was like, oh, I'll play the VR mode. No, it was the worst idea, but it's so good.
It is so good. So let's talk about another kind of horror game, The Last of Us Remastered. I like your shirt, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of looks familiar.
Yeah.
It looks like Ellie from the first Last of Us.
Well, how did you know? It is her. Well, Last of Us was one of my favorite games of all time. It is still survival horror shooter from Naughty Dog. There was great performances from Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson.
Oh my goodness, amazing performances. So this remaster comes with the Left Behind DLC, so we can get a little bit more information on Ellie, who seems to be the main focus of The Last of Us 2.
Right, so what's cool in the first one, she kind of acted as a secondary side helper character, kind of like Atreus does in God of War. But she was just as impactful, so I'm really happy that she's gonna get her own moment in the forefront in Last of Us 2. So if you haven't played Last of Us, the first one, you need to pick up the remastered.
Oh, yes.
So good. One of my favorite horror games as well, like all of these are my favorites, but this one kind of holds a safe spot in my heart, as Outlast.
Yes.
So there is the Outlast Trinity, which is the 3 original, technically 2.5 games, re-released for the consoles. So Outlast originally came out on PC and quickly made waves as a terrifying first-person experience. You literally can't fight back.
No, you run, hide, and cry in a corner.
Yeah,
you cannot fight.
That's me. That's literally me every time. I had to stop multiple times because I either lost a controller because I threw it on accident from screaming, or I just felt so tense I had to pause and I was like, I can't. But the cool thing about it too is that you look at everything through the first-person view of a camcorder. You can choose to have it up where you can see night vision, or you can choose to have it down and just go into the dark. So the trilogy comes with the first one, the second one, and then the Whistleblower DLC for the first game. And so that gives you tons of time to get scared, survive the night, and experience this really, really kind of messed up horror game.
It's such a unique experience. So I played it on the hardest difficulty. The first one, the second one, and the DLC. Yes, because your battery life is shorter, for one, and two, you can't find batteries anywhere.
I just need a AA battery.
So you're constantly struggling between, I need to see what's going on, but I need to save my battery, and then you're hiding in a locker, and they're stomping around trying to find you.
And you're trying to hold your breath, and you're like, I can't do this, it's too much pressure.
I was sweating, I was so nervous, but I loved it. It was such an adrenaline rush. And speaking of adrenaline rushes, let's talk about Prey.
Prey.
I feel like this is one of the most underrated horror games of 2017. So it's made by Bethesda and Arcane Studios. You play as Morgan Yu. You wake up on the Talos 1 space station, and it's infested with this alien species called the Typhon. But the crazy thing about them is they can disguise themselves like everyday objects. So you never know when you're gonna get a jump scare. You could walk into a room and then the next thing you know, a coffee cup is jumping at your face.
And it happened. It definitely happened. Like, I literally was searching for files and I was like, oh, coffee cup, and it broke it apart into a black spider thing, which spiders I don't do. But it was like this typhon and it latched onto me and I was like, no, done. This game is the worst thing I've ever experienced, but it's so good. But the cool thing about Bethesda right now is they're killing it with horror games. Like Evil Within is another great one. But Prey, I think, kind of was overshadowed. And so if you haven't played Prey, definitely is the time to do it. It's a spiritual successor to System Shock, another great horror game. And there's DLC out right now and coming out soon. There's Moon Crash, which just released, and then Typhon Hunter, which is kind of like Prop Hunt. Except
your friends aren't just props with people, you know, people hiding as props. They're aliens, and it's terrifying. I can't wait to jump scare my friends. I want to be like a little file in the corner or like a coffee cup. I'm going to be the most like unsuspecting object.
Banana, just like jump out and it's just like done. Speaking of jump scares, this game was one of my favorites of 2016, 2015. Man, it's been a while. Time is passing, but Until Dawn.
Yes.
Until Dawn is a friend experience, I like to call it, because it's so much fun to choose your own adventure and you make your own horror film, basically. So you play as various different characters, played by Hayden Panettiere, Rami Malek, and Jordan Fisher, and you are a bunch of friends who go up to a mountain for the weekend to commemorate the anniversary of their friends' deaths, but they're starting to be stalked by a serial killer. And so I know, right? And so it's one of the reasons I got a PS4. And you basically can choose to save all the survivors, or you can kill them all, or pick and choose who you like, who you don't. Fail those quick time events.
Yeah, it's all quick time events too. And the best part of it is when you get into those really intense scenes and you have to like really concentrate, you're shaking, but you have to hold your controller still because it senses.
It literally says don't move.
Yeah, it says don't move. So you're like, oh God, oh God.
I've done that many times.
I had to put it on the table. I'm like, don't touch it.
I can't literally touch it. But the cool thing too is that if you like VR as well, the good thing about it is there's Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which is kind of a rail shooter. You sit in a cart and you go through and just shoot at things, but there's monsters coming at you. There's things jumping out at you. It's kind of a haunted house experience.
It is. That's a perfect way to put it, as a haunted house experience, because it's completely different from Until Dawn, which is that guided like horror movie that you have, and then you have your railway that you go through shooting all the clowns as they run out at you, which is I love it.
Clowns, oh, okay.
So all of the games that we just talked about are available right now. So make sure to ask a game advisor if there are pre-owned copies in stock and save yourself some money.
After the break, Devin will join Melanie and Meg for a look ahead to October. GameStop TV will be right back.